Hi, this is Glad again, your chaplain, Major Glad Youngcombe, chaplain of Salisbury House, Salvation Army Lifehouse, Hostel for the Homeless in St Helens. Continuing with the isolation because of COVID-19, sharing the book. You really didn't need to see my tatty bookmark. Sharing the book Max, the Miracle Dog by Kerry Irving. I've been in touch with some of you today and listened to how your day has been. For some, you're on day 90 without drugs or alcohol. For some, you're on day 7. For somebody, you gave in today, but signed in with an online support group. So I was really proud that you didn't go completely off the rails and got the support that you needed, and also let me know and said, would I pray? And so I've been able to pray with you at the end of the day. I'm just sending loads of love and just trying to support you in this small way that I can. We're on to chapter 1 at long last, and I hope you enjoy it. The background music that will be with this chapter is from the Salvation Army Household Troops Band. Please let me know how you think it's going. Really appreciate it. Take good care. Speak to you soon. Bye. Chapter 1. A Boy on the Beach. My home is in the Lake District, and also my heart. It's where I belong, and that feeling of being rooted is so important to me. The rugged landscape is where I'm happiest. It's also seen me at a desperate low point in my life, and where I met a very special dog who changed everything. The fells shape the backdrop to the story of Max and me, along with the majestic expanses of water that reflect the sky above. And yet my earliest memories aren't from here. Those were formed far from the northwest of England, in a small coastal town called Fishhook on South Africa's Cape Peninsula. I was born in Shropshire, the youngest of 3 boys. I've never known why we were there when I arrived. We just didn't stay there long enough to set down any kind of roots. My dad was a naval engineer. He spent a great deal of time at sea. Soon after my arrival, in the early 60s, he was posted abroad. Rather than stay behind, my mum packed up our belongings and we took the long boat trip to start a new life halfway across the globe. As a family, we went on to spend 5 happy years in a world of our own. The one thing I remember most about this time is the beach. The sand was the colour of bleached bone, backed by a string of pastel-painted beach huts overlooking a boundless blue bay. I learned to crawl and walk there and splash about it in the surf under supervision from my mum. Sharks patrolled the waters around the cape, so she never let me stray. During the heat of the day, we took to the shade and drank sugarcane water. At low tide, I developed a fascination for picking over the rock pools in search of crabs. Sometimes I would test my parents by smuggling home my new crustacean friends in a bucket for a sleepover under my bed. When I think back to those formative years, it's really just a melting pot of images, sounds, tastes, smells. From the giant clouds that would cluster over the mountain ranges to the sea salt on my skin. There's no narrative in my mind. I just remember it being a safe place and a pleasant time, with no sense that everything was about to change. We returned to the UK when my father's Navy service came to an end after years of working on ships, in dock and at sea. But by then, my parents felt that it was time to move on. Both my mum and dad had come from Penrith, a small market town just east of the lakes in Cumbria's Eden Valley. And so they decided to return to their roots. Despite leaving a job that he loved, my dad's years of experience earned him solid employment in the area as a service engineer for a washing machine manufacturer. That afforded us a nice little house in a terrace under the railway bridge with a view of the open countryside and the distant trace of the fells beyond. Best of all, for a lad my age, was the fact that we were just a stone throw away from a farm. I loved to visit the animals. I was enamoured by the pigs and the chickens. I'd ask my older brothers if they would take me, but more often than not they'd be busy doing their own thing. They didn't dislike me. I was just too young for them. So when they took off without me, I would drift down the track to the farm gate to see my livestock friends. I was quite happy on my own. I always have been. You could say that was the beginning of my life as a loner, but at the time I didn't see it that way. In fact, once that little boy made it through the farm gate, he found himself in good company. Talking to the animals seemed like the most natural thing in the world to me. And yes, it's what kids do, but I've never grown out of it. There's something magical when you know that they're listening. It's a connection, and we all need those in life. More than anything, however, I loved to be outdoors. I liked the bird song and the breeze on my face and the sense that I could go anywhere. I was happy in my own company, the kind of boy who could pick up a stick and transform it into a sword in my imagination, or create a den from branches and ferns and turn it into a castle. I was also oblivious to any sense of danger. I liked to play down by the river, where the current could pick up forcefully whenever rainwater drifted off the hills. Even the abandoned steam train line was a good draw for me. It had once been the main connection between Penrith and Kendal in the lakes. In those days, the stoker on board the train would discard lumps of coal onto the side of the track if they were too big for the firebox. Knowing that I liked to spend time there, my dad would even send me down with a bucket to pick up what I could find for the fire. While I felt at home outside, life seemed increasingly uncomfortable. I'd come back and find an air of tension between my parents. I was too young to understand what had come between them. I just knew that something wasn't right. To bring us together, my dad came home one day with a collie. We called him Rex which was almost the most compulsory name for a dog in those days. I was too young to think of Rex as being my dog, but still I considered him to be one of the family. I used to take him for walks across the fields. I think we both got cabin fever quite quickly inside the house, and so it was a good excuse to get out for a short while. I didn't feel like I was in charge, watching him run and gambol through the grass and the reed beds. It just felt like we were equals in the world. We also took on a cat, but my father didn't get on with it at all. I suspect the feeling was mutual because the cat always seemed to make himself scarce whenever he was around. Even so, my dad decided that the cat was a nuisance that we didn't need. One morning, I was told the cat had gone to live on a farm across the town. I remember listening to my father explain his absence while wondering what had caused the livid scratches on his forearms. Who knows? It may well be that the innocence of childhood protected me from the whole story, which was certainly the case when it came to the state of my parents' marriage. Some of you have said you've been using this as your bedtime story, in which case I would say good night, God bless, sleep well, love you with all my heart. Take care.